So iPhone 17 Pro or the iPhone 17 Pro Max, which size phone is actually best for you? So what is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology, and this episode is going to be entirely dedicated to the topic of which size iPhone is the best for you. I get this comment all the time about, I don't know, should I get the Max? Is it too big? Is it too large? Should I get the smaller 17 Pro? Is it enough for me? And we're going to talk about multiple areas of the phones, but mostly focusing here on size. So let's talk first about the physical feel of both of these phones. One thing I haven't been super excited about with these products this year is that they're both a bit thicker and they're both a bit heavier. So overall, these phones actually feel like more of a brick than last year's 16 Pro and 16 Pro Max. However, there's a trade-off though, and that comes with longer battery life for both models. However, I do like one trait about these phones. The edges of these phones feel very smooth in the hand. It's very, very apparent, and I do like that. You can also feel this camera plateau a little bit, so it's definitely not super comfortable up there, but right around here in the corners, it feels pretty great. I also found that with the smaller 17 Pro size, I'm touching this LiDAR over here in the flash area. You might even rub your finger on there if you have a big hand on that camera. Quite a bit, because if you got a bigger hand, it's going to cover most of that. Now, I don't find myself doing that too much on the Max. You can see my finger kind of just stops right about there. So if you have a bigger hand, of course, it's pretty obvious you might want to consider going with the iPhone 17 Pro Max. But hand size doesn't equal the actual size experience on the day-to-day, because you could have a big hand and still find the 17 Pro Max to be uncomfortable to use day-to-day. However, both of them do come in at the exact same thickness. So size-wise, you're looking at the same 8.8 millimeters thick. So that's actually rather thick when you compare it to something like an Air or a Galaxy S25 Edge. It's even thicker than some regular Galaxies like a Galaxy S25, S25 Plus, but they do come with substantially longer battery life compared to some competitors out there. So that's something I just wanted to mention there. Now, the weight of the iPhone 17 Pro is substantially lighter, as you might expect. It's pretty obvious to see that just looking at both of them, but it is about 20 grams lighter. Do you really feel it? The answer is yes and no. What do I mean by that? Well, when you have a thick battery kind of like in a smaller package, it kind of feels like the weight is denser. Like it feels like it's just crammed into this smaller size. So it kind of feels hefty. The iPhone 17 Pro Max, also heavy, but it kind of disperses that weight across a larger body. So it kind of feels not too much different, even though it does weigh a little bit more. So I would say from a weight perspective, there's not a huge deal of difference here. Where there is a big difference though is the width of these phones. You can definitely tell that the 17 Pro Max is definitely the wider phone. And this comes into play in this area throughout the day-to-day. So with the iPhone 17 Pro, if you're used to using a phone one hand, you might really, really prefer this, because reaching your thumb across the screen from side to side is not that difficult to do on the iPhone 17 Pro. I still find it a little bit too wide to kind of like one hand type easily. I still have to move my finger down a little bit right there, but the swiping mechanism helps. And it's also easy to just go like this and bring the keyboard over with one hand on this phone, making it even easier. But this is nowhere near iPhone mini level one-handing, but definitely a lot more so than this phone. Now for the iPhone 17 Pro Max, you can easily type on this phone as well with two hands. And I find if you like to two-hand type like this a lot, this is super spacious and comfortable. So this is the size I would go with if you're into like fast typing and you just want to like pound out texts here and things like that, because it's just so accurate and large of a keyboard that go with the Max on this 6.9-inch screen. However, I find when I am one-handing this phone, I definitely use a case on this phone because it's so unwieldy to use with one hand that I don't, and you know, it is smooth, but it can be slippery too. I feel like I'm gonna drop this pretty easily. And with the rumors of, or not the rumors, but the posts about this phone scratching a little bit easier, I'm not a fan of scratches, so I'm gonna try to avoid that at most costs. But you can see I can't even reach that over there. So what I do with this is I bring this over, but at the same time, I'm not able, remember how I showed you can get the one-handed keyboard up? it's even hard to reach. Like, let's say you're right-handed, it's hard to reach that over there to even bring it over one hand. So you still got to use two hands to bring it over. Once you do, now you can do a little bit more of these typing things with one hand, and it becomes easier there. Again, that reach though, from the top to bottom on the iPhone 17 Pro is a lot easier. Although, again, both of them are still a bit large, and I think I got True Tone on over here. It's pretty yellow looking. Sure did. Over here, reaching up to the top is almost an impossible task. So I definitely use this a lot. This feature right here, a ton on the iPhone 17 Pro Max. Other than that though, that's kind of like the experience of day to day with the physical sizes there. We are looking at the same Ceramic Shield 2 glass in the front and the rear. But again, with more body, I feel like if you drop the 17 Pro, you might actually hit the cameras a little bit easier because there's just more area, surface area here for you to hit another part of the phone on the 17 Pro Max. That's just a little something to know about the size. The trade-off with the sizes here though is that, you know, that screen size is pretty apparently different. The 17 Pro feels like a regular iPhone. The iPhone 17 Pro Max feels like nearly a phablet style phone. So it definitely feels like I'm holding a little bit of a mini tablet on the right there day to day. And I feel like I'm a bit more productive with that phone, but I do like the 17 Pro for daily portable use. It's just so good for that kind of stuff. So I would say if you're heavy using the phone, 17 Pro Max all day. If you're portable and you need power like a beast in your pocket, or maybe even have a car with smaller areas to put your phone in, the 17 Pro is going to be the better option there. One trade-off though that I don't really love about going with the smaller phone is battery life. Now, the battery is great on the 17 Pro for its size, but it's no match for the 17 Pro Max. This is substantially better battery life. So that size trade-off comes in the area of stuffing in a larger battery. So I do think that if you want really strong battery life, you got to go and just deal with the size of the 17 Pro Max. That doesn't mean that you'll get bad battery life on the 17 Pro, but I've tested both of these. It's no match for the 17 Pro Max. So a couple other areas I wanted to mention about the size differences. You know when you're like reading your phone on the couch or in bed or whatever, something like that, the 17 Pro feels a little bit more cozy to use. Like you can just kind of like, you know, get comfortable, you know, have your snacks, watch a little video, watch a little show, text on here, check out your photos from the day, read some news, do whatever you do, and it's cozy. I like that. The iPhone 17 Pro Max is glorious when it comes to media consumption. It feels more like I have a mini tablet. I feel like I'm going to do more extended sessions. So what I mean is, if you are going to be, hold on, I got the passcode messed up. If you are going to be using Netflix, you're going to be watching those type of content like long form movies, things of that sort, the 17 Pro Max is beating that by a lot. If you're watching things on Apple TV Plus, they call it Apple TV regular. They just call it Apple TV now. But if you are watching stuff like that or just consuming a ton of media, I think the 17 Pro Max is worth dealing with the size trade-off. But if you're just like on the move, quick, doing a bunch of stuff day to day, I would go with the 17 Pro. It's better in that respect. And another area to think about when thinking about which size to get is the cameras. So the iPhone 17 Pro, if you have a decent size hand, it's pretty easy to just one hand whip that out and take a photo, even with the camera control. The trade-off though is that when you are framing your photos, it is a much smaller screen area for framing that shot. It does feel more like a point and shoot camera, whereas the 17 Pro Max, look how big that area is to frame photos. It is absolutely humongous over there. So definitely I would say for doing video work, you know, framing video and stuff of that sort, I would go with the 17 Pro Max. For photography, I like the 17 Pro because it's more portable, small, not too noticeable. It's definitely the one I would go with if I was just like taking mostly photos on the go and stuff of that sort. But if I'm going to be putting it up on a tripod, you know, recording video, doing it all in one package, I think the size trade-off is worth it to go with the Max because that longer battery life will extend your video recording sessions on the 17 Pro Max. And lastly, before we come to the final verdict here, when it comes to pocketability in jeans, smaller bags, clearly this is going to be the better one, but I did want to give an honorable mention to the regular 17 because it's even thinner and lighter than these two phones here. It's just a smaller device, just a little bit overall. And of course, the Air is super, super thin, but the Air is going to give you that thicker camera hump, the plateau up there. So it does have that trade off. At the same time, the 17 Pro Max is a phone that you kind of equally benefit from not losing it as much because it's so large. So think about when you lose your phone, I feel like you're more likely to misplace a smaller phone just because it's more discreet. How are you going to miss this thing? It's orange, it's a brick, it's huge. There's no way. Like, I feel like you're not losing this. You're not going to be having those phantom reaches in your pocket because you're going to feel this brick in your hand over here. But I call it the brick because it's got a huge battery and I like that long battery life. So which one to get at the end of the day? We talked everything I wanted to talk about with size. I did want to say one other thing I didn't mention. The reach to the volume rockers is also harder on the iPhone 17 Pro Max by a little bit, not substantially, but a little bit. I'd go with the 17 Pro if you find yourself on the move a lot. You're commuting a lot. You're throwing this thing in the car on Apple CarPlay. You want to just throw it in a little tray. It's going to fit in more car cubby holes. It's also going to be much better in the pocket on the move, and it has enough battery life to get through those full days of, commuting, going to do whatever you're doing throughout the day. It tends to do really good in those situations. In fact, it's the one I would pick for those situations. For heavier users, ones that are playing games a lot on their phone, maybe they work from home, maybe they don't work from home, but they want extended map time, like they're using it for GPS, stuff of that sort, or you like to consume a lot of media and you have some downtime to do that, the 17 Pro Max is the better phone here. Also, if you're going to be using it for productivity-based tasks and you don't want to whip out your tablet too much, this size is worth the trade-off on this phone. Where it's not so great is mostly fitting into certain, people's pockets, bags, things of that sort. It's not the greatest there. And when you add a case, it does become a little bit thicker. Again, though, the trade-off is going to be battery life. You get way better battery life for the 17 Pro Max. So I hope this video helped you narrow down which size is best for you. I hope it helped you decide if you were on the fence. I still don't know which size I want. This should have helped you figure that out. Let me know your thoughts. If you have any more questions, comments, concerns, leave them down below in the comments. I like to discuss this. It's pretty interesting to talk about how people feel about the size of their phone, because it does switch up. Some years people are like, you know what, I'm done with that size. The next year, like, you know what, I'm going back to the larger size. You know what I'm saying? So let's chat about that down below. Anyway, I'll catch you on the next episode. Nick here. Thank you very much for watching. Be sure to be well and peace.